Micah said it was easy. Now we got another person saying it was easy. Was that true?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
No. Oh, wait, no, wait. No, wait.
Yeah, this is homework from last night. Right?
No, wait. I didn't write down 16.
Okay. I'm going to be so happy when this is all over and I have to press 26 gazillion buttons just to start a class. Wes, close the door for me, please. You don't want any geometry secrets leaking out into the wild. All right, no questions? 16, no, yes? All right. Here we go. Numero uno. Number one. There are two answers there, 12 and 12. Number two, 2K and K. Is that the name of a video?
NBA 2K.
No, but isn't there a video game developer thing called 2K?
Oh yeah, 2K. They do Gearbox stuff.
Gearbox stuff?
Yeah.
All right.
Borderlands. I love Borderlands so much.
All right, number 3 is 4, and number 4 is 2. We are going to work extensively on these today in worksheet form to make it very easy for you to pass the quiz tomorrow. It's a worksheet. Well, it's going to be more a worksheet day. It's going to be, we're just going to go over the skills. No proofs, nothing, but just we're going to look at what the questions will look like on the quiz, and we will do a bunch of examples. All right, 7 through 13. 7 is D, comma, E. Oh, 5? Oh, yeah, there's 4 parts here. A is 40, 40. B is 20, 20. C is 26. And D is 34. All right, number 7 is D, comma, E. So is 8, D, comma, E. But 9 is not D, comma, E, it's D, comma, F. Number 10 is 15, 1, 5. Number 11 is 6. Number 12 is 4. And number 13 is 11. All right, number 16, it turns out X is 3 and Y is also 3. Now, all they had you do there was solve for X's and Y's. It just seems like it's not, I mean, great, you solve with X, Y, but I would think geometrically you're more interested in how long is that segment. So when I'm going to give you the quiz tomorrow, yeah, there's going to be ones that look like 16, but instead of solving for X and Y, I'm going to ask you how long the segment is. You're going to have to find what X and Y is. And to use that, you'll, or to find out how long it is, you'll have to solve the equation and then plug it back in. We'll do a couple examples. All right, Chris, come around and collect your homework. We will take a quiz tomorrow. The quiz will be on what we're about to do. It's going to be 4 skills, just 4 skills, okay? The skills can be asked in one of 2 different ways. We'll look at that. So technically, there's 8 things. Therefore, guess how many questions there will be on the test, the quiz? There will be 8 things. There's only 4 things, but each one can be asked 2 different ways. So I'm going to give you 8 questions on the quiz. I'm going to give you a worksheet that has 40 questions on it with answers. The reason why I'm giving you 40, right? I'm not going to give you a worksheet yet. The reason why I'm giving you 40 is so you got plenty of practice. You look at one of those and you're like, well, that's stupid. I know those answers. Then don't do that one. But you better make sure you know how to do it. All right? So I'm giving you 40 because I don't want to give you 2 and say, well, I didn't get enough practice doing on it, or practice on it. I want to give you as much work as you can, or you require, so that you have mastery of this. All right, so I have chosen, I don't know how many are here, 8, 9, 10, something like that, 10. We're going to go over 10 examples. It's not going to take the whole class. It'll take about 15, 20 minutes. And then I'll give you the 40 questions. Oh, it's actually 42 with answers, right? So here's what you need to do. First off, Danny's going to put away what he's drawing, so he's paying attention, so he can pass the first quiz of the quarter, right? And then you're going to, pay attention and try to get through them. Some of these are stupid easy. Some of them are ridiculously hard. So if we need to do more, we can do more. If we need to do less, we'll do less. It's kind of up to you. But we're going to go over the 4 skills you have to do. I don't know if you want to take, extra notes or something, because the quiz is tomorrow. I'm going to literally this worksheet that I hand you, I'm just going to say save as a different name. Instead of having 42 questions, I'm just going to take 8 of them. Obviously, I'll change it around slightly, but it's going to be the same thing. So if you can do this, you can pass the quiz tomorrow. All right, so let's look at what it visually will look like. Okay. So first thing, you don't have to write this down, but just remember we're dealing with 2 shapes in this chapter: parallelograms, and well, yesterday we got one for a triangle, something about a triangle. And remember, the way we proved it was because we proved it using some parallel. We made a parallelogram out of that triangle. All right, parallelogram is a 4-sided figure, quadrilateral, with both pairs of opposite sides parallel. We get to say 4 things about parallelograms. So, what are the 4 things that we can say about parallelograms? Bailey, you get the first one. Tell me anything about a parallelogram. The opposite sides are congruent. So I will give you questions. How big is a side? Guess where you should look?
Opposite side.
The opposite side. Okay? Also this, when it's an algebraic equation like number 16 was, or I'm sorry, number, actually last night homework was all on triangles. So when I give it, it could be algebraically written, meaning like it'll be an expression 2x plus 4 or something like that. Well, if you know that the top is equal to the bottom, set them equal to each other.
Excuse me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I have Madison for dismissal?
She's on her way. Madison. No joke. I'm going to make the quiz off of this right here. So good job, Bailey. Opposite sides congruent. What do you got, Caleb? Another one? Opposite angles are congruent, right? So opposite angles are congruent. I'll give it to you stupid simple, and I'll give it to you more complicated. The stupid simple is I'll say that this one's 110, therefore this one's got to be, that's pretty easy. But I also could make it algebraically. I could say this is 2x plus 1, and this is something else. You'll have to set them equal to each other, solve. Okay? Third one, Wes, what do you got?
It should be the parallel.
Well, that's the definition. All opposite sides are parallel. Yeah, opposite sides are congruent. Opposite angles. Say it one more time.
Consecutive angles are supplementary.
And I'm going to use 2 different words: consecutive angles or adjacent angles. Either one's fine. So if you pick B, the angle next to it, either A or angle C, so that's consecutive or adjacent, either one, are supplementary. That means B plus C equals, for parallelogram, 180. Okay, this one will always be a medium type question, so you'll have to do a little bit of math to find out the answer to that. Okay, the last one, what do you got, Chandler, for parallelograms? The 4 statements: opposite sides are congruent, opposite angles congruent, consecutive angles or adjacent angles are supplementary. Oh, I already wrote it right here. Duh. Why did I get that out of order? Diagonals bisect each other. So if I were to draw the diagonals, bisect means cut in half. This will always be somewhat of a calculator. It could be medium, could be easy. Just depends upon whether I write it algebraically or just with numbers. Okay, so those 4, and then the one that we had yesterday. Can anybody remember what we did yesterday? We got one formula. What was the formula? If I connect the midpoints of 2 of the sides, if I connect the midpoint of 2 of the sides, I get 2 statements. We get the MN is parallel to the third side, and that one I'm not going to really use, but it's the second part, the formula. The small one is half of the big one. You could write it 2 ways. You could say 2 smalls equal 1 big. That's the way I like writing it. Or you could say the small is 1/2 of the big. Okay? So that's what you get. So you get that MN is parallel to the third side, and then you get that I like this one better. I'm not saying this was easier than that. I just don't like writing fractions if I don't have to. Okay? So that's what the quiz will be on. What you have in front of you, right, front, back, are just how the questions will look. So we'll do this as fast or as slow as you want, okay? So what do the skills look like? You know, I guess technically that's, I lied and said 4, it's 5. I forgot the triangle one. Okay, so easy. Who wants an easy one? Who wants an easy one? Caleb. If this side is 9, it's a parallel. All of these will either be parallelograms or triangles. I should make that this statement. If this is 9, that's got to be, okay, you got to tell me, do you need to do 20 of those? Bailey's saying, yep, I want 20 of those, just like that. Right? Unfortunately, I'll give you 1 of those on the quiz. Please don't miss that. I mean, there's nothing going on there. Okay, so the only way that you will make a mistake is if you don't kind of like mentally go through the process. So the process is this, right? Of the basically things we have, I'm either going to ask you how big is a side of a parallelogram, or how big is an angle of a parallelogram, how big is a bisector of a parallelogram, or I'll ask you something about a triangle side. Those are the basic questions, okay? Remember, angle has both opposite angles are congruent, or consecutive angles are supplementary. So those are the 5, even though there's only 1, 2, 3, 4. So on this one, I'm asking to calculate a side. Well, then therefore we think about, well, what do we know about sides, parallelogram, opposite sides are congruent, we're done, okay? So this is kind of the mental process you go through, okay? I'm not saying you had to go through that long of an explanation of why it's 9, but that's what you're going to do on every one of these. And just so that we don't lose any simple points, just remember, when we're talking about distances, we don't put a line over the top of the segment, okay? All right, medium one, who wants a medium one? All right, Matt. It says find GF. This is not one of those stupid math things. Well, there it is, right there. I found it, right? When it says find, it means calculate how large is GF. All right, so are you calculating a side, an angle, a triangle side? I am calculating a side of a parallelogram. What do you know about sides of parallelograms? Opposite sides are equal. So if it says find GF, in other words, calculate GF, well, first thing you got to find it. Well, there it is. We know that this side is equal to that side, and that kind of tells you what you need to do mathematically. What do you need to do? I need to set up an algebra problem, which in this case would be
2x minus 3 is equal to x plus 3.
and it doesn't matter the order that you write that in, right? So we know the opposite sides are congruent, therefore their measurements are equal. So therefore we did what Matt said, set up an equality. And then obviously we need to
Solve that.
now, are we solving for x, or are we trying to find how large GF is?
Solve for x.
Last night for homework, they said solve for x. I'm asking you how big is GF. So the process is you got to find out what x is,
So you can figure out how big
and then plug it in for x, and then figure out how large it is. Okay, so here we go. Just walk me through real quick. What do we do?
So you want to add 3 to, I'm sorry, subtract 3.
I would personally get the x's on one side first.
So you should divide 2.
Get the x's on one side first.
Sorry, I suck at algebra.
So are you going to move the 2x or the x?
1x first.
Why the 1x, not the 2x?
Because then you get negative.
We don't like negatives, right?
What if you just add 3?
You could, but I'm just saying you don't know whether the x's are going to move to the left or the right, so why don't you get those done first? How about we move the x first? How do you move x?
Subtract.
Subtract x from both sides. That would give me
1x minus 3
equals, okay. I mean, he was saying, I mean, if you look ahead and you know, you can absolutely move the 3 first if you wanted to. But, you know, for those of you who said, well, let's subtract 3 first, well, you moved it to the wrong side. Therefore, the answer is, therefore, how long is FG or GF?
9.
Okay, you see what he did there? So he found out that x is equal to 6. Then he's going to toss it back into here to find out how big GF is. GF is equal to x plus 3. We just figured out that x is equal to 6, therefore GF is 9. Way too much detail. Most of you guys would, some of you might even try to do that in your head. I would not try, but certainly set up the equation. All right, I'm not telling you that's a medium one. Could you do that by yourself? Okay, I'm not going to make this any harder than that. I'm not going to make it like, you know, crazy decimal numbers or fractions or something. I'll make it just like this. But if you don't know what you're doing, then you don't. Danny, you good on this one? Okay. All right, example 3. This is an easy one.
140.
Cares? Are we looking for a side? Are we looking for an angle, a bisector, or a triangle side here? We are looking for an angle, question mark. All right, this is a parallelogram. What can you tell me about angles in parallelogram? There's two statements you can make, by the way. And you could also say that adjacent angles are, this was that second statement. Adjacent angles are not congruent, except if it's a rectangle. Supplementary. So is this an opposite or adjacent angle? Okay, adjacent means next to. What angle is next to C? A or, yeah, so these are opposite. So what did you tell me about opposite angles? So therefore, how big is question mark? You tell me, right? That seems, remember, these are the two statements you could make, right? We're going to use opposite angles, okay? But you got to think about this because guaranteed I'll give you one where they are adjacent, okay? That's pretty easy, right? Remember when we talk about measurements of angles, we got to put a little m, measurement of angle C is equal to 140 degrees, okay? Cool? All right, next one. I'm claiming this one is easy as well too. Who wants it? Go ahead, Cadence. First off, is that a side, an angle, a bisector, or a triangle side? As an angle. So remember, we can make two statements. Opposite angles are congruent, or adjacent or consecutive angles are supplementary. So are those opposite or adjacent? Those are adjacent. So therefore, this and this must equal 180, the addition of those. So 148 plus question mark has to equal 180. I would literally write that, right? The measure of angle E plus the measure of angle F is 180. We know that E is 148. I'm going way too much detail here. Clearly, what do we need to do mathematically?
Just subtract 180 from 140.
Okay, therefore the answer, Cadence, is, you tell me, is that easy? Because I have a mistake. Thank you, Cadence. Darn it!
97, 20, 20.
I was hoping to go a day without a mistake. Not today. All right, so 32. You want to know why it says 132? Because I copied this, pasted it right here, deleted that, and left the 1 there and changed 80 to 32. All right.
Hey, wouldn't it take this time to just write out 32?
Not because in Microsoft you have to say insert math equation, and you got to click a button to find the angle symbol. I mean, I'll show you what it takes, and it's much easier to say if there's already an angle right here to do copy paste and change things. Fewer clicks. All right, I'm going to claim this one's hard. All right, so Micah, Seth, who wants it?
Yes.
All right, Micah wants this one. All right, everybody pay attention to how Micah solves this one. What is it actually asking? How big is angle B? Notice there's nothing here. Oh, notice opposite, there's nothing there. So our normal technique of, well, I just look at what opposite ain't there. Ideas?
Okay, yeah. So set up an equation.
And also, I'll just make one quick note. Sometimes the diagram is kind of squished, and you may question, does this apply to A or does it apply to D? If there's any question on the quiz, ask me. I'll try to make sure there's nice large parallelograms. This applies to A and this applies to C. All right, tell me what you think you're going to do.
Set up an equation.
Why would I set up an equation? Oh, but let me catch up with you.
Find the measures of 2.
So what's the relationship between A and C? Therefore, they are equal, they are congruent to each other. So we're going to set up an equation. Our basic idea is what, Micah? We're going to find out what? And then
Plug it into one of it.
we're going to either figure out how big C is or how big A is, either one. And then, well, it still doesn't get me to B. Now I know how big A is, let's say, for instance.
Adjacent.
And since adjacent angles are, then we can subtract whatever A is from 180 to find it. So this one has lots of steps. In fact, I'll fill this whole page full of numbers. All right, what was the first step? So if this is, I will put one of these on the test because this will separate A from B students right here. Okay, so we're going to set these two equal to each other, right? So the measure angle A, C, why? Because they're opposite angles. Okay, and then I'm going to do a little bit of algebra.
69x.
That would give us
Subtract it from the side, that gives us 2x minus
subtract 69x from both sides. That gives me a 2x. Then
minus 1, and then,
do what?
then you get 2x equals 2.
Okay, then you said minus 1. So add 1 to both sides, and therefore we get x equals 1. Great. We found out what x is. You can plug it into either one. Which one you want?
We'll see.
Go with C. So 69 times 1 is plus 1.
60.
So
Wow, that's messed up.
see how easy it is to make mistakes? So C is 70, right? I did A, but guess what? Opposite angles are congruent. It's going to be the same number. Okay. Therefore, how big is B? It's 110 because they're supplementary, right? 180 minus 70 is 110. I'm going to claim this one is the hard one because it's got that many steps. Plus, you got to think about it. Cool? I gave you 4 of these to play with. Just 4. You might. There's one that you might want to have more work on. Is this one? Danny, yes or no? Okay. Don't say yes if you mean no. This one looks like it would be complicated. I'm claiming it's easy. All right, Connor, this one's all yours, buddy. So when I approach this, what I do is I just read it one piece at a time. What's the first bit of information you, by the way, it's a parallelogram. What's the first bit of information they give you? So G to N from here to here, that's 12, okay? It's a parallelogram. It says find GE. GE is a side, so we're finding a side of a bisector, right? What do we know about bisectors of parallelograms, Connor? Should be on your paper somewhere. On your notes, parallelogram, the bisector, never mind, I just said it. The diagonals of parallelograms bisect each other. What's bisect mean? If I bisect the book, what did I just do to the book? I cut it in half. So the bisectors of a parallelogram cut each other in half. So if this side is 12 and it's bisected, then this side must be. That's why I'm claiming this one is easy. So this side is 12. Now, maybe you might consider this one as medium, because Connor, what does the question actually ask? Well, G goes from here to here, therefore the answer is, okay, so maybe a little bit of thought. You can easily screw this up because like, oh, bisector, that's easy. It's just half or double or something like that. And then you don't read the question carefully and you miss an easy one. Questions? I gave you 4 of these to do. GE, these are not the droids you're looking for. That's 2 mistakes. That's a formatting one there. All right. Well, you know why, because I just copied it from a previous one. All right. Okay, this one's medium only because I'm writing things algebraically. It's the same thing. All right, Chris, this one's yours. What's the first bit of information it gives you? So LV is this piece. It says LJ would be this piece. And what do you know about the relationship between LV and LJ? Okay, LV is half as long as LJ. Okay, LV is also equal to JV, if you want to think of it that way, as two. Or you could say 2 LVs are equal to LJ. Any one of those statements would be true. So the question is, I mean, I solved it my way. I don't know if you're going to think it the way I think of it. Question is, how are we going to get to how big is this piece right here, LV? What are your thoughts, Chris? What are your thoughts?
Well, I personally just multiply LV by 2.
That's how I did it as well, too. So I'm going to take LV and multiply by 2, and that whole thing is going to be equal to, oh no, because you multiply by 2, then it's going to be LJ. That's how I did it as well, too. Now, other people would want to take half. That's fine, but remember, you take half, you're doing with fractions. So I'd much rather double something than take half of something. So I'm going to set it up exactly the way that Chris said. So I know that LJ, or I should say double LV, is equal to the whole darn thing. It's trying to find me the whole darn thing. Now I'm just going to plug in what I know. Chris, how big is LJ, according to the information? LJ. And how big is LV? Everybody see what I'm asking for there? So I'm just going to throw that into 2 times what LV was. LJ is just LJ. Just an algebra problem. Distributive property real quick, Chris.
4x plus 16.
You got to move the 4x to the 7x. So subtract 4x from both sides, and we get.
3x.
Notice we're not in algebra 1. We're not pre-algebra anymore. I skip all those steps where we write minus 4x, minus 4x. And this is kind of what algebra is like from now on as you get higher and higher in high school. We just simply write the answer. We're doing one step at a time. We are doing the math in our head, so just be careful. What do we do now? And then, so x is, okay. So it feels like we've done a lot of work and we should be over. No, because the question says how big, calculate how big LV is. Well, I know that LV is equal to that, so what do, Chris? I throw in what x is, in this case 6. You do that in your head. You don't have to do it in your head, by the way. It's 20, okay? So we throw that into that. We just figured out that x was 6. We throw it in there. He did it correctly. He got 20. We're also really lazy in geometry. Like in pre-algebra, I would have taken away points because you didn't write the word units. It's 20. How long is it? And then we kind of get lazy in geometry. When we do the chapter on volume and area, we'll get back to putting units. But for the most part, they're not going to put units. They're just, it's implied that by the time you get to high school, you know this stuff. Okay? Maybe that's a false implication, but that's what we do. Medium, yes? Okay. All right, and then we get on to the last thing, which was last night's homework. So last night's homework said 2 things. It said no parallelograms, triangles. If you have a triangle and you have from the midpoint of one side a segment that connects to the midpoint of another side. This is called a median. I'm not sure why our book doesn't describe it as a median, but the median connects the midpoints of sides of in this case, a triangle. Okay. That if you have this construction, what's the relationship? Look at your notes. What's the relationship? We actually have 2 relationships. We're going to get in trouble. Nobody caught that, Joe? All right.
I did, but I did.
Okay.
I don't want to laugh.
Okay.
I didn't get it.
All right.
Of course.
It wasn't a very good one, but all right. We have two relationships. Just trust me, I speak from experience. It'll end in disaster.
Oh, wait.
Never works, and you get in trouble.
Oh, yeah. I get it now. I get it.
2 plus 1 actually equals 0 in that sense.
I get it now.
All right.
I get it.
And never square 2. Don't get 1.
Do you get it?
Yes, yes, told.
Okay, good. All right. Is it true? Okay, thank you. All right. I only did it once in my life, and I feel horrible about it now that I'm a much older man. But, all right. Here we go. What's the relationship between these 2?
Parallel.
Okay. First off, if you have this construction, it goes to the midpoint of 2 sides that is parallel to the third. But then we get a formula. What's the formula? Yeah. Either you could say that the short one is half of the larger one, or you say that 2 short ones equals 1 large one. Okay. Either one is fine. So we're doing the triangle side one. It's only one formula so far. Me, I like multiplication. So I'm going to say 2 of the short ones equals 1 of the long ones. Okay. All right. Well, that's not too bad. By the way, I'm claiming this one's easy. So what do I do? Well, 2 short ones. I don't know how long the short one is. So 2 times whatever VW is equal to NL. But I do know what NL is. NL is 12. Therefore, divide both sides by 2, and you find out that VW is. Now, most of you probably wouldn't write this, right? I just wanted to show it to you. You would just say, oh, it's half of 12, it's 6. So that's fine. But I just wanted to show it to you written out formally. Okay? If that's easy, then I can make this more challenging by just writing an algebraic expression. But I'll give you another easy one. All right. If this side is 10 and that side is 20. Okay. So I don't want to bore you with the make it seem more challenging than it actually is. That's an easy one. Okay. All right. So let's do the more challenging one and call it a day here. All right.
Ooh, that was a good one.
So I just want you to know one thing. We're going to get a negative answer here, and that will cause some people problems. Just remember, x can be negative, but the actual distance can only be right. So don't freak out. I know first time I did a geometry problem where I got a negative number, like, wait a minute, it's geometry, you can't have negative distance. Well, x could be negative. It just the whole value has to be positive. You'll see what happens. All right, who wants to set it up? Seth, you didn't set one up yet.
Get wrecked.
So we know that PR is twice of HG. So first thing I'm
Whoa,
gonna
whoa, whoa, whoa. Say that again.
PR is twice HG.
Okay, he said it right.
So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take x plus 30. I'm gonna put it in parentheses and I'm gonna put 2 from that.
There's your mistake.
What?
When do you put x plus 20 in parentheses and multiply?
You said it the first time. I have to listen to it again on the recording, but I thought you said it backwards. The second time you said it the correct way, but you set it up incorrect. What's double what?
PR is double HG.
I thought that's what you said. No, that's not true.
Because HG is half of
HG is double PR. No,
The
PR
one that you want to double is
HG is PR.
That's what I said.
the one that you want to double is not PR.
Yeah, I thought you wanted to
You
do
want to
that.
double HG.
Oh,
I actually did that
yeah.
on
He's actually saying it correctly, but we're not thinking what he's thinking differently than us.
Yeah.
We would probably say it verbally. We would say double HG is PR. He actually did say it correct. He didn't do the math right, but he did say it correctly. So tell me what to do, though.
Okay, so x plus 20, put in parentheses, times by 2.
So double HG
Yes.
would be equal to
X plus 30.
PR. All right, let me catch up with you. So double HG, I wrote GH, is equal to PR. Very good. All right, so I plug in what he said to do, and then we just do the math. Okay. And you would get?
Then you're going to get 2x 40, and then you're going to subtract 1x from each side. And then
You
you're
get?
You're going to add. Are you going to subtract?
Yeah,
you're
but
gonna
tell me what you get after you move the X.
Math. Stop backseat mathing. Okay, so subtract x from each side.
And you get?
You get x plus 40 equals 30. And then you subtract 40 from both sides, so x is equal to -10.
And this is the thing that might cause you a problem, because we can't have negative distances in geometry. It's not saying the distance is negative, just saying X is negative. Oh, and then, by the way, always look back to the question to make sure, because it could have asked either HG or PR, either one.
Yeah.
All right, it's asking us for RP, so therefore,
Actually, plug x into x plus 30, so grab -10 plus 30.
okay, so -10 plus 30,
Yeah, and then you get 20.
you get 20. So 20. By the way, HG would therefore be
10.
10. Okay. That's it.
Wow.
The quiz tomorrow. We'll make it, I don't know, 15-minute quiz, or I don't know, we'll see. I said how many questions did I say? 8. I said 8 questions. So we'll do 8 quick questions. Half of them will be the ridiculously easy ones, and half of them will be the medium ones, or with the exception of one, I'll make that the hard one. You had the one that Mikey did. Okay.
Which one did you do?
He did the one where I was asking for the
69 one?
unnamed angles that you had to do multiple steps on it. The answers are all in the back, right? So this is obviously the first 4 are ridiculously. You don't need, if you look at that, you're like, I know how to do that. You can skip them. You don't want to do them. Don't skip on the ones that you definitely need to do calculations. And then make sure you don't do 40 of them and then check your work and find out you did all of them wrong. Check them as you're doing, especially in geometry. Check them as you work through the problems. So I'll be walking around. If you like, how do I do this, Mr. C? By all means, ask that question. My claim is that if you do 4 of them, then you should be pretty locked in your brain.
Oh, so if you do 4 of them right.
No. I just, that's a time.
It's the 21st.
All right. My claim is that if you do this and you understand what you're doing, then you will pass the quiz. If you sit there and you draw pictures instead of doing this work, then you're going to get what you deserve, right? Danny. I was hoping he would get that message. He still hasn't. Danny. I know. But I want to give you every opportunity to pass, which is why I'm giving you a worksheet and claiming that this will be the quiz tomorrow. If you choose to draw things instead of doing your work, then, well, I guess you're in high school now. So those are kind of decisions that you do make in high school. In the lower school, then, you know, the teacher takes things away from you and whatnot. In high school, it's kind of, you guys are scarily enough, you're like just a little bit over 2 years from making true decisions that have lifelong impacts on you.
No, in high school, just your parents take it.
Yeah, but I'm saying in 2 years, guess what? You're on your own.
No, that's only if your parents.
If your plan is to sit in the basement and watch Netflix, I'm just going to say,
No,
you
my
might
plan
want
is
to
to
have
be
a plan B.
My plan's to be a helper. So.
Hobos don't have Netflix accounts.
Exactly.
Oh, it's weird when a hobo's on the street and they pull out an iPhone 11.
Don't you love it when that happens? You just see some dude on the side of the street playing on this new iPhone. It's like, what?
That's why they're both bored because they use all their money.
Well, yeah, but they would also have to constantly pay for a cell phone bill, though.
So what does it ask them? This is your problem, yeah. It's the same one. So this plus this equals 180, and then find out what that is, and that matter equals.
Sad truth, TikTok is Chinese.
Oh wait, actually, never mind.
Sad truth, TikTok is.
Dude, seriously, come on, do the worksheet.
That's a problem.
Make good decisions.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. You can come back to me. Come back.
It is, so then solve for x, and then how are you gonna find s? Yeah, whatever x is. All right, e-learners, I'm gonna stop the video right here. They're just doing the worksheet. It's already posted online. You can see it with the answers. The quiz will come from this worksheet.